So what we're going to do this week is look at sort of the anatomy of a digital file, which is some of this is difficult without being face to face because there are visual aids and things that are really tough for me to do this way. Um, so let me go into, I'm going to share my Photoshop screen. Oh, by the way, I had sent a reminder today and also the link before last week's class about downloading some files. Did you guys all get those files downloaded? Okay. So if you have access to Photoshop right now, we're going to actually do this together in class. Sorry, my phone fell out of my pocket. I was hearing my dog bark like crazy during the last part of that. And when we took a break and I went in, he had somehow locked himself in the bathroom and completely annihilated an entire roll of toilet paper all over the bathroom floor. All I can say is it's a good thing he's cute because I think I would have never. Anyway, just I'm too old for this stuff. So anyway, the files that you downloaded, we're going to work on in a very specific way in this class. And then if you're able to do that along with me, well, not along with me, but after I do it, I'll have each of you share your screen of your finished shot so that I can see that, it looks the way it should look so that, you understand the technique. And then I'll give you the assignment, which is sort of an offshoot of that. So this is just, and I don't know if this was included in the images that I sent you. I may have only sent you 3. This was actually the 4th image. You may have it, you may not, I'm not sure. But I have this one open because I want to show you sort of how this file is put together. So I'm looking at my channels palette. I'm going to pull that up so you can see it right next to the image. And the RGB, which is the combination of the red, green, and blue channels together, is what creates the color image. Each channel, as I click on it, you'll see is actually in black and white, although I believe I can change that. Panel options, no, thumbnail size. It used to be able to actually show these in the colors that they were, but now I'm not seeing that. So anyway, each of these is a black and white image where the pixels are sensitive to only one color in that spectrum, red, green, or blue. And when you combine all of these 3 together, that's how you get your color image. Each of these channels, because it's reduced to only tones and not color, each of these channels is capable, each pixel in this channel, for example, is capable of representing only 256 levels of gray. So when you look at a histogram, for example, and I'll pull that up as well, and let's change this so that it shows only the luminosity values. There we go. So a histogram shows you from left to right, 0 to 255. Okay, 0 being the darkest black and 255 being the brightest white. So that's 256 levels total. Well, each of these channels is capable of showing each pixel in one of those 256 levels of brightness. When you multiply the 3 together, and you can do the math if you want, but it's 256 times 256 times 256. And when they combine together, that means that each pixel in this image is capable of representing any one of 16.7 million colors. Okay, so that's how we get a color image. That's how we get the variety of color that to our eye looks like a continuous tone digital file, when in reality, this file is nothing more than a series of rows and columns of square pixels, each one of which can be any one of 16.7 million colors. If you zoom this in far enough, if you could maintain that resolution and zoom it in close enough, you would actually see rows and rows and rows of square pixels, each one being a slightly different color. In reality, as I zoom this in, it's just going to get fuzzy, and at some point you're going to lose it entirely. But if you can see a little bit in the face of this guitar, the variation in color that's in there. In all of this, actually, you can see a little bit of that. We're just not going to be able to get it in tight enough to see it in the actual rows. So the resolution of this file, which I'm not sure what it is, we'll look at the image size. So the dimensions of this file are 1024 pixels by 1536 pixels. So literally what this means is, as you go across this file line by line or row by row of pixels, from left to right, there are 1024 different pixels in that top row. And top to bottom in each column, there are 1536 pixels coming down. When you multiply the 1024 by 1536, you get this 4.5 megabyte file. And actually, let's just do the math. I'll just do it right on the calculator and you'll see. So 1024 times 1536, 1,572,864. And of course, we're going to multiply that by 3 because we have 3 color channels. Now, we don't have to worry too much about all the math at this point. It's just the general concept that I want you to understand. So this image is made up of 1024 rows and 1536 columns of pixels. And each pixel can be a different color, any one of 16.7 million. It's showing me the height and width of this image in inches if my resolution is left at 72. If I turn this resample box off and change my resolution, let's go to 300. It didn't change the number of pixels in the image. All it changed was how they're distributed. Now, instead of only 72 of those little pixels in a linear inch, now there's 300 of them. But instead of that image being 14 inches wide, now it's only 3.5 inches wide. So that's sort of the core of resolution. We're not going to get too deep into that right now. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of it. The main thing that we want to be aware of right now is how these images are made up of a red, green, and blue channel, each one with 256 levels of gray, and that's what gives us the 16.7 million potential colors per pixel. And just so you know, that's a JPEG file. That is an 8-bit file. If you look under the image mode in the Photoshop menu, you'll see it's an RGB color file, and it's in 8 bits per channel. And that's what that means, is that each channel is an 8-bit file. And that's what we're typically working on. That's what gives us those 16.7 million colors. When you shoot a RAW file, when your camera records, if your camera is capable of recording a RAW file, that's actually a 16-bit file, 16 bits per channel. So the difference in the math is huge. Instead of each pixel having a potential 16.7 million colors, in a RAW file, it's actually over 68 billion colors. Now, that sounds like a really big box of crayons, all right? That sounds like way more color than you would ever need. And in fact, 16.7 million is more than you need as long as you don't do anything to it. As long as you don't try to change the brightness, try to adjust the color or anything like that. When you start doing that, it actually starts to fall apart a little bit to where our eyes can pick it up. That RAW file, however, with 68 billion colors, you can make a lot of editing adjustments to that, and our eyes are never going to see what happened. So that's just a little side story about the difference between an 8-bit file and a high-bit RAW file. All right, so let's get back to where we are going with this. I'm going to close this window. I'm going to open the 3 files that I know I sent you, and then we'll go back into Photoshop in a second. Let me just get these in the area that I want them. And then I'll go back and share that. Oops, hang on 1 second. I think maybe I can. Oh yeah, I can share all 3 windows. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to show you those 3. You already have these. There's one. Oh, it's not going to let me because I'm sharing the screen. Let me see if I can get out of this screen mode. This is one of the problems with Zoom. All right, so you should now see all 3 of those images, but you're also seeing a lot of other stuff probably. I'm not sure what you're seeing exactly, but I have all 3 of these windows side by side right now. Are you seeing those? Yep, okay. All right, so what these images are, these guitars were hung with fishing line, and I can't remember how I affixed them to the floor so that they didn't move, but I had them in a position where they were not going to move. And I photographed them 3 times and with one light. I used only one light. But each exposure, each picture, I moved that light. And so if you look at the shadows that are being cast, you see the shadows are coming from different directions. And that was done intentionally because of the effect that I wanted to achieve with this file. Let me throw that back in there. And I'm going to throw my channels back in here. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Whoops, sorry. Let me get back into that. So each one of these files has a red channel, a green channel, and a blue channel. And they're identical files except for the lighting. So this is where it gets really kind of cool and kind of interesting. What I'm going to do is pick one of these files as my base image. And then I'm going to take the red channel from one of the other files and move that into that file, replacing its original red channel with a new red channel. And then I'm going to go to the second file and take the green channel, and I'm going to go back to my base file, and I'm going to replace its green channel with the green channel from the other file. That might sound a little confusing right now, but just kind of watch me how I go along about this, and then I'm going to have you guys do it as well. So for my base file, I'm going to pick this this image on the right. I'm hoping you're seeing all 3 images and not just 2. I think I may have lost one. Let me go back in and do this again. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, now they're all there. Okay, I can see they have a green line around them. All right, so the image on the right is going to be my base image. What I'm going to do is go to the left image, select that, go to my channels palette, and I'm going to click on the red channel. And then the process is simply to select the red channel, select all the pixels by hitting Command A or Control A on Windows. And then I'm going to copy, which is Command C or Control C on Windows. So all I've done is open that first file, or I've targeted that first file, clicked on the red channel, select all, and copy. Now I'm going to go to my base file, which is the one on the right. I'm going to go to the red channel in that, and I'm going to hit paste, which is Command or Control V. Now, initially, you're going to see the image change, but it's still in black and white, so you're really not seeing much. But look at the RGB channel. Look what it looks like now. So you see where we're headed with this. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the middle image. I'm going to select the green channel and the same technique, Command A, Command C, so for select all and copy. Then I'm going to go back to my base image, go to the green channel and paste. And now I've got a completely different looking file. There are a lot of variations that you can do with this because you can take, I took the red channel from the first file and the green channel from the second file. I could have taken the red channel from the second file and the green channel from the first file. I could have taken the blue channel from one of those. There are, I forget, I did the math to figure out how many variations there are. It's not as many as you might think. It's like 64, something like that. But there's a lot of different variety that you can come up with to create an image that looks like you shot it with all these colored gels, when in reality, it's just one single light, one simple light, which is casting shadows in different directions. And you'll notice that the shadows are broken into secondary colors. You know, the primary colors are red, green, and blue. The secondary colors are cyan, magenta, and yellow. And that's what you're seeing in these shadows along the bottom. I had another file, which I don't know if I sent you, which was the face of the guitars, which we'll get into after this. I just want to walk through this process first to make sure that we have the process down, and then we'll add a little technique to it. So I'm going to go back to the original. Okay, that's my original file. Let's just jump back through history. And I'm going to have you guys open these 3 files and do this process as well. So let me deselect everything, and I'll verbally walk you through it again. And this time, if you have Photoshop open and you have these 3 files open, try to follow along and do the same thing. And we'll see if we come up with the same looking file. If you don't, it just means you did something a little bit different than what I did. So I've actually got the file names that I've got left to right are Guitars 1, Guitars 3, and then Guitars 2. You can put them in any order that you want, as long as we use the same files overall. So the base image, I'm going to use this Guitars 2, which has light on the face of the guitars. That's my base image. So I'm not taking anything from that. I'm taking from the other 2 files. So the first step is to go to the Guitars 1 image. And initially it'll look like that. Click on the red channel. If you don't see your channels palette, go to the window menu and just select channels, and it'll pop up on your screen somewhere if it's not already there. And then, like I said, you'll just click one time on the red channel. If you're on a Mac, hit Command A and then Command C, and that's for copy, or I'm sorry, for select all and copy. If you're on Windows, it's Control A and Control C. Then go to your base image. Click on the red channel in your base image and hit paste. You can either go to the menu to do that, or it's Command or Control V. You should see the image change, and the thumbnail in your channels palette you should also see now has this color attached to it. Everybody with me? That is with me? If I go too fast at all, just slow me down. So then the second step, actually the final step for this image as it sits right now, is to go to the Guitars 3 image, which initially looks like that. Select the green channel, click on the green channel, Command or Control A, and then Command or Control C. Go back to the base image, click the green channel, and paste. Command or Control V. And then if you did exactly what I did, your image should look exactly like this one. Did anybody have success? Nope, nobody's having success. Tell me what's happening. Or are we still working? Jaden, you got it? So the good news is that this is all recorded, so you can watch this again later to get the steps down properly. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to back up, and instead of taking the green layer from this image, I'm going to take the blue layer instead and see what happens. Click the blue, select all, copy, go to my base image, go to the blue and paste. And yeah, it does change it. The shadows are completely different. We now have this green cast on the face of the guitars that I didn't have before. I actually think for this exercise, though, I like it the other way. So let me do the green to green. Yeah. So do we have a total mess on our hands, guys, or are you somewhere in the ballpark?
I feel like I'm in the ballpark a little bit. Yeah.
So, I mean, the concept is kind of simple in that you're just simply copying channels from one document and pasting them into another one. The hard part or the confusing part is making sure you keep your documents separate so that you know which one you took what from. But honestly, you could take the red channel from your first document and you don't even have to paste that into the red channel. You could paste it into the green channel of the new document. There's all sorts of options that you have, and each one is going to give you a different look visually. So I'm going to let that simmer for a minute. If anybody has any success and wants to share, let me know. I'll go back to the beginning. You can always go back to the beginning. Just go to your history channel, your history palette rather, and click on your original history state, and that'll take your images back to the way they were. All right, so I'm going to start again. I'm going to go to my guitars 1. I'm going to keep it the same. Red channel, click on the red channel, select all, copy. Go to my base image, which is guitars 2, click on the red channel and paste. Then I'll go to guitars 3, select all and copy. Go to my base image, click on the green channel and paste. Oops, I missed something here. There we go. I do remember when I first started playing with this, how confusing it got. So I really want to try to simplify this as much as I can and not play with too many variations just yet. I'll let you guys do that on your own for the assignment for next week. The key to this is there's 2 things. Number one, you want to use a hard light source, a small, light source that's going to cast shadows. A really high intensity desk lamp or, something that's small in size that's going to create shadows across your image. Second thing is that your camera and your subject cannot move. So it either needs to be on a tripod or on a table or on a beanbag or something that it's not going to move between these 3 exposures. The only thing that should move is your light source. So as you take each of the 3 images, you just have the light source in a different location and not little, like don't have one at the camera and one just off to the right of the camera and one just off to the left. Really move these light sources around, like experiment even with putting them behind or off to the right, off to the left. The more dramatic you make your shadows, the more dramatic your final image is going to be. And then you have to think about what is it that you're going to photograph. It has to be something that will actually cast a shadow. One of the coolest things I saw done was somebody did this with a keyboard, and not like one of the low-rise keyboards, but one of the, where the keys are actually pretty high, pretty deep. And they really raked light across in different directions to create very harsh shadows in between all of these keys. And it was such a cool effect because, very small footprint to work with. It wasn't difficult to do, but it created this really multicolored final image, which was pretty neat. So you want to think about, you know, what whatever you photograph should have indentations or, you know, something raised, something that's going to just cast a lot of different shadows in a lot of different directions. Anybody getting anywhere close?
I think I got it.
Do you want to share your screen so we can see it?
Sure. Oh, it says I can't share without you closing your screen.
Oh, because I'm sharing. Hang on, let me do that. There we go. Try now.
Can you see it?
Yeah, that's it. You got it. I don't know where your channels palette is, but let me see that and just open that up a little bit so I can, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it.
Okay.
And it looks exactly like it should. Perfect. Great job. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this image. I'll give you guys, if you want to keep playing a little bit, I'll give you a couple more minutes to play with this, but then I'm going to take the image and go a little bit further because obviously the assignment's not going to be to just duplicate what we did here. It's going to be to go a little bit beyond that. So we'll challenge you a little bit in that respect, but I'll give you a minute to play here. I'm going to go back into, actually, I need to open another image for this. All right, give me a second here. I hate to move too far ahead, but it looks like most of you have either gotten close or you've given up. So again, the good news is that this has been recorded, so it should be pretty simple if you need to go back once I post this and watch the process again. So let's just take it a little step further. I'm going to go back into Photoshop and select, actually, I only need to select 2 images this time. And that's the one that I just finished. Let me close the other ones up. And this new one, which is a little more of a normally lit image. Now, I already have a file that I've created a mask of this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it along with, you know, so you can watch how I'm going to do this anyway. This should be a pretty simple image to mask. I'm just going to take, actually, I might even be able to do the magic wand here and make this work and just make sure that in the options bar, if I take the magic wand, if you look up in the options bar, there's a check mark by the word contiguous. And what that means is that when I click in the white area, it's not going to select every value in the image that has that value. It's only going to select until it meets something that's not that value. In this case, the guitars. So if I click in that area, and I may have to click more than once. Oh, because I didn't have, hang on, let me do that again. I need to shift click to continue to select different areas. My tolerance may be a little bit too low. Let's take that up. All right, I just wanted to see if I could get, and it looks like I did. If you look at this image, you can see I've got a selection around the guitars. I'm trying to eliminate as much of the shadowing as I can right now. And then I have to invert that selection because I want the guitars and not not the background. So it's not a perfect selection. I can see that as I'm looking at it. I'd have to go in and refine this a little bit. I don't want to take the time to do that. I've already done it. I just wanted to show you another way to do this would be to use the quick select tool and drag around on the guitars. But let's just try it this way. So now I've got this selection. Again, remember that the camera did not move and the guitars did not move through all 4 of these exposures. They haven't been cropped in any way. So the guitars should be in exactly the same position in all 4 shots. So I'm going to take the selection that I have on these guitars. I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to take the move tool. And while I hold down, and the shift key just ensures that when I drag this over onto this other document, that it places it right in the center, right where it should be. So I'm going to drag that over. You can see that it's actually moving the guitars. I'm going to drag this to my other document and drop it. Oh, I dropped it in the center and not on the guitars. Great. All right, so I have to physically move those into place, which they kind of did easily because I've got snapping turned on under the view menu. You see this adjustment that says snap. It helps things to kind of, jump a little bit better. I'm going to close up this first document because I don't need it anymore. Oh, and it jumped me out of sharing. I'm sorry. Trying to, I guess I have to do it through the menus. The keyboard shortcuts don't work when I'm in sharing mode. All right, so if you look at my layers palette, you can see that's the new layer that I just drug in. All I did was drag in the guitars. So I've still got this funky color going on with all the shadows because of the channel replacements, but the face of the guitars is lit kind of normally. And I can play with this. I can pull the opacity of that down so that I just have a little bit of that at play. You can see it still has an effect. I just have a lot of options, a lot of different things that I can do with it. I think in the version that I actually did of this file, I might have put a halo around this too. Let me go in and look for that. I'll show you what some of the finished ones looked like. So I told you there were a lot of variations. These were all the variations that I did. The top ones are just replacing different channels from different documents. And then I think near the bottom is, yeah, this is the one that I finally settled on as being the final edit. So you can see the faces of the guitars are lit. I actually brought in that halo that's around the guitars is actually just a little bit of the white background that's in that file. I allowed that to bleed through. And the selection that I made, it's actually on a layer mask. I blurred that a little bit like we did earlier in the class. Remember we talked about feathering a selection? So when I drug this image over, I just brought a little bit more than the guitars. I created a layer mask and brought that layer mask over a little bit more than the guitars and put a blur on it so that it kind of spread it out a little bit more. And so this was the finished image that I came up with. But you can see that there's a lot of different varieties just depending on which channels I brought in. And then I did one with just a little bit of a light around the sound hole. I kind of liked not doing too much on the strings because this string particularly got a cool highlight from one of the color channels. So lots of different ways to do that. All right. So again, I'll do it a little differently this time. Maybe I'll use the image on the left as my base image, and I'll do the green and blue channels from the other two just to see what the differences are. So if I take the middle image and I'll target the green layer, or I'm sorry, the green channel, select all and copy, go back to my base image, go to the green channel and paste. That's where I'm at so far. Then I'll go to my third image on the right, select the blue channel, select all and copy. Go back to my original, go to the blue channel and paste. And that's what I come up with. Now let's just do some variations. Let's just keep going with this. Let me take the red channel. So I'll have a couple of channels from this document. I'm going to take the red channel and copy it. And when I go back to my source, instead of putting it in the red channel, I'm going to put it in the blue channel. So I get a completely different look. It's not necessarily what I like. Let's put it in the green and see what the difference is. Actually, let me back up here a second. I'll take some snapshots so we can look at the differences. All right, so that's with that. All right, so I'm going to go to my second image. I'm going to select the red channel, copy it, go back, and I'm going to paste it into the green channel. Then I'll take my third document and I'll select the red channel. This is just getting really weird. Go back to my base image and I'm going to paste the red channel from that one document into the blue channel. So it's a very similar look to what we had a minute ago. Actually, it looks like maybe that's what I did because the two no, they're not the same. If you go through them, you can see that there are differences here. So the point I'm trying to make there is that just because you're copying a red channel from one document does not mean you have to put it in the red channel of another document. That's how I would recommend you probably start, just to get the technique down. But once you do, play with it a little bit and see what you come up with. So the assignment is going to be not only to do this technique, to photograph some object or objects this way, and then combine the images by combining channels. But I want you to try to take it a step further if you can, like in the case of the base image that I had, the fourth image, and using a little part of that to bring back some normalcy to a part of the image, or use, really mess with how you combine the channels together to come up with multiple effects. I'd actually like to see at least two variations. You can use the same images. Okay, you can use the same images for both of those both of your finished images, but either do different channels so that we have a different color rendition, or add something to one of them that the other one doesn't have, so that they are, they're going to come out as very different looking images, but the core of it is still going to be this